Hello, my friends. This week we've been looking at being contented in all of our circumstances and also how to deal when being falsely accused. Today I want to go to Acts chapter 27 and look at Paul when he was shipwrecked, and also running over into chapter 28 when he's on the island of Malta there where they were shipwrecked at. And there's some principles I would like to draw from this. First of all, you can be in the middle of God's will and still have a storm. Well, you see, the Lord told Paul he was going to preach in Rome, and on their way to Rome, they're in this terrible storm out in the ocean. Now, I've been in storms before. I used to work on a trawl boat when I was a senior in high school, and it's a very scary thing. Well, Paul was in a storm. Looked like everybody was going to die, but God told him he was going to Rome. So when he says he's going to do something, he's going. So Paul, I'm sure, he might have had some questions, but he had a peace about it because he was in the middle of God's will. He's on his way to Rome. So just because you're having a storm doesn't mean you're not in the middle of God's will. Secondly, the centurion Julius, when Paul tried to warn him of the storm that was coming, he listened to the pilot instead of Paul. Now, we see here that it's a natural thing oftentimes for people to listen to the professionals, to listen to those who have been trained and in the natural. But we also must listen more so really to those that are been trained and those in the spiritual, the men of God, the Word of God. We need to listen to the Word. And then we go on and we see that when the storm came, they listened to Paul. They did what he said. He said, don't try to cut the boats loose and escape. Stay with the ship. That's a message in itself. Stay with the ship. Anyway, and then they ate to strengthen themselves. Well, remember, God is leading Paul to Rome. So God's going to protect him even in the midst of the storm. Well, when they get shipwrecked on this island of Malta, they start gathering sticks in chapter 28, and a snake comes out and bites Paul. Now, let me just say to you that if the devil can't get you one way, he'll try another way. But God, remember, God is with Paul, and he's going to help him through all of the circumstances. Now, here is something that I thought was real important for us to know. All of these things Paul went through was for one reason, I believe. God wanted to bring the message to this island of Malta. It took a storm to get Paul there, but God was bringing a message. And this snake bite also was, God turned it around and brought some miraculous things. You see, there were sick people there, and they brought them to Paul, and he healed them. And so all of these circumstances Paul was going through with, it was getting him to Malta to help these people. So my encouragement to you today is that, first of all, if you're going through a storm, don't think that you're out of the will of God. Now, we're not saying that we couldn't be, but we need to just recognize that just because we're going through a storm doesn't mean we're not in the will of God. You can be in the perfect will of God and going through a storm. Secondly, we need to listen to the Word of God first and foremost. And thirdly, remember that God is He's preparing you. He's preparing you to minister to people that you might not ever were able to be. I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but a friend of mine, Dan Scalf, up in, I believe he's in Illinois, and he's been in the hospital for some time, but he's told me, he said, I've won many people to the Lord since I've been in this hospital. And I can say this to you, my friend, that through your storm, just look around, recognize God may be leading you somewhere to somebody to help deliver them, to heal them, to bring salvation to their life. Well, God bless you as you weather the storm. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.